I kept saying, I'm American, you know, you can't treat me like this.
The ABC 15 investigators uncover a story that should not happen in the United States, but it did. And it happened right here in Arizona. A 62-year-old woman locked up in jail, left without water for days, forced to resort to the unthinkable, actually drinking water from a toilet.
As ABC 15 investigator Melissa Blasius found out, that was just the beginning of the injustice.
This is Tammy Barnicoat. The grandmother lives east of the valley near Globe. She's a homeowner and clearly a dog lover.
Want a cookie?
She also lives with mental illness, and last October,
I just kind of freaked out.
Tammy says she was offered psychiatric medication when, according to Globe police, she threw water on a car wash employee claiming it was poisoned. Officers booked her in the Gila County Jail for assault, disorderly conduct, and trespassing. Locked in an isolation cell, Tammy said she was hallucinating.
I wasn't violent or anything. I just thought I just saw aliens and stuff and spaceships.
Even the jail commander, Justin Solberg, noticed her bizarre behavior.
Standing over her toilet and looked like she was doing some form of ritual in the cell.
Because I was seeing things that weren't really there.
According to the sheriff's office, it was Detention Sergeant Dustin Burtis who decided to turn off the water supply to Tammy's cell. It's called dry celling and is sometimes used to prevent inmates from playing in the water or flooding their cells.
Our protocol requires when they're dry celled that we start a log. Every 2 hours we're required to turn on the water in the toilet so they can use the restroom as well as get a drink.
None of that happened for 2 or 3 days. Tammy, unable to effectively advocate for herself, said she asked for water but got none.
And I was thirsty.
Desperate, she saw some water in the toilet bowl and decided she'd have to drink it.
How did you feel about having to drink out of the toilet?
At the time, I thought it was really gross, but I didn't know what else to do.
By Tammy's 4th day in jail, the overpowering odor of urine from her cell caught a detention officer's attention. Official reports describe Tammy's condition. She was very confused. She was wearing nothing from the waist down. She had no mattress. Her lips were very dry and cracked, and the toilet was empty and dry.
Do you think that was cruel?
Definitely. I wouldn't even treat my dogs like that.
In our interview, the jail commander disagreed with some of the details in his staff's incident reports, saying Tammy had access to her pants and had a mattress and even was given juice in every sack lunch. But even the sheriff admitted Tammy's constitutional rights were violated. It's the 8th Amendment. Listen to this.
People are going to say this is cruel and unusual punishment. Do you agree?
I would say yes.
Absolutely. We wish we'd have known earlier. Then it wouldn't have happened.
How does somebody not lose their job over this?
If you fired everybody for every infraction, there wouldn't be too many people working.
Sheriff Adam Shepard said he did demote Sergeant Dustin Burtis, the guy who shut off Tammy's water and failed to tell anyone. Burtis had been reprimanded before for ongoing issues of failing to start suicide and dry cell logs.
It's difficult to find people to work. And so you've got to gauge all of these things together where you still have to have a functioning office at the end of the day.
The sheriff says he's also working on a better dry cell logging system. As for Tammy, drinking out of a toilet was just one of the injustices she experienced.
Tammy Barnicoat was held inside this jail for 27 days. She was finally released when the judge realized while she was arrested, no one had ever filed criminal charges against her.
She says after nearly a month in jail, without being able to see a judge, she became desperate.
I actually took the blue blanket apart and I made some rope with a long piece of rope. And there's holes in the bunk beds. And I was going to put the rope into that and hang myself if I didn't get out that day.
So the day you got out?
It was the day I got out.
It was November 6th. Now months after her release, Tammy Barnicoat tells me she's finally stabilizing with the help of her medication, her mental health worker, and her beloved little dogs.
While you never want to see what happened to Tammy Barnicoat, Sheriff Shepard and his staff discussed her treatment at length, as well as how they responded. His staff provided us every document we requested. We don't usually see this kind of openness from the law enforcement agencies we cover, but Sheriff Shepard says it's important for his agency to be transparent and accountable to the citizens of Gila County. I'm investigator Melissa Blasius, ABC 15 Arizona.
This has completely failed us, her, everybody.
Civil rights advocates and court officials now speaking out after an ABC 15 investigators exclusive. An inmate with mental illness forced to go days without water.
Her story opening a floodgate of concern over management at the Gila County Jail.
ABC 15 investigator Melissa Blasius breaking it down for us.
Jail officials call it dry celling, purposely turning off an inmate's water supply.
I said, y'all gonna be in trouble. This isn't right.
62-year-old Tammy Barnicoat suffered through 2 days of it. In the throes of a mental health crisis, she was unable to advocate for herself, so Tammy resorted to something unthinkable, drinking water from the toilet bowl.
At the time, I thought it was really gross, but I didn't know what else to do.
Tammy's treatment was so deeply concerning, the judge on her case heard about it and took action.
I had an ethical responsibility to advise the sheriff directly, and I did so.
In this memo, which a whistleblower leaked to the ABC 15 investigators, Justice of the Peace Jordan Reardon tells the Gila County Sheriff that jail staff also failed to obey a court order to get a mental health exam for Tammy. The jail's commander said staff had been confused by the order.
They took in as she had to be evaluated before she was released from custody.
Tammy, clearly psychotic when she arrived in jail, wasn't examined for 6 days.
The mental health issues in this country land in the criminal justice system, and we have a responsibility and a duty to address it.
This case is a prime example of all the ways the criminal justice system can fail to protect people's constitutional rights.
ACLU attorney Jared Keenan reviewed what happened to Tammy.
As a society, the public should not stand for this.
Tammy is not an isolated case inside the Gila County Jail.
In fact, this detention sergeant, who was demoted for failing to follow dry cell procedures in her case, was reprimanded for doing something similar to another inmate.
And the Justice of the Peace also told the sheriff in that memo that jail staff had a continuous disregard of court orders, including failing to release people from jail on time.
Again, potentially a violation of someone's civil rights, correct?
Correct.
We're not talking about an intentional act here. There mistakes are made. If you're asking me if we don't ever make mistakes, people make mistakes.
Sheriff Adam Shepard said jail staff is now required to get clarification from the court if there is ever any confusion about judges' orders. And they're looking at better ways to keep track of dry cells.
Something needs to be done, that's all. And I hope that it is a better jail.
In Globe, Melissa Blasius, ABC 15 Arizona.
The ABC 15 investigators uncovering more failures inside the Gila County Jail.
This is the same place where a woman resorted to drinking standing water from a toilet after the faucet in her cell was turned off for days. And tonight, a family of another inmate is now taking legal action.
They claim jail staff failed to follow basic procedures, and that led to his death. ABC 15 investigator Melissa Blasius speaks exclusively with his family.
We had fun. They rode the motorcycles. We had a good time.
The family of Gene Chad Beeson can only cling to memories of better times, like this trip to Tombstone. It's the last time Chad's sister saw him alive.
Sorry.
Chad struggled with mental illness and drugs. He was in and out of jail. In December 2018, Chad was booked into the Gila County Jail, but he never got out. He was found dead inside cell 208 on Christmas Day.
That's why they're in jail, to be watched.
This video shows detention officers walking by Chad's cell 4 times in 90 minutes, but not one looked or even verbally checked on Chad. A blanket covered his cell door as Chad secretly made a rope and hanged himself off his bunk.
They neglected their job, period.
The Beeson family filed this notice of claim, the precursor to a lawsuit, asking for $2 million for Chad's kids. They say his death was preventable, and the Gila County Jail failed to provide a standard of care.
I feel really bad about what happened, and it's still, to this day, I feel like part of it is my fault.
The detention officers explained what they did wrong in recorded internal affairs interviews.
Just so we understand, there's some breakdowns in security walk. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree.
According to Gila County Jail policy, detention officers are required to check on inmates at least every 30 minutes, see them in the flesh, make sure they're breathing, and blankets are not supposed to be on doors ever.
I remember seeing the blanket up. I'm like, I'm gonna tell this guy to knock it down. And I don't know why he did it.
Detention officers admitted they often let that rule slide.
I like to give them privacy, and I smelled the odor of poop, so I thought that he was using the restroom.
None communicated to each other concerns about the blanket on Chad's door for an extended period, despite earlier red flags about his mental health issues.
He said he was hearing voices of his family.
According to the internal affairs investigation, even the sergeant who booked Chad noticed past suicide attempts. He had cut himself while in this jail before. A mental health worker who evaluated Chad added he was hearing voices, paranoid and anxious, but concluded he was a low risk to himself, so jail supervisors never ordered a suicide watch.
If we all started caring a little bit more, I think we could go a long ways.
The other inmates cared. They eventually pulled back the blanket, then yelled for help. Jail staff tried to resuscitate Chad, but they were too late.
Everybody makes mistakes, so it was just one of those days.
Some of these things sound like just bad common sense.
So now I don't know that there's a measure for common sense. Do you have one?
Gila County Sheriff Adam Shepard declined to answer most questions about Chad Beeson's death, citing the pending litigation. He did say one detention officer quit and 4 others were suspended without pay. Sheriff's officials say the no blanket on door policy is now strictly enforced, and they've increased mental health screenings and services inside the Globe Jail.
Every case that we have that doesn't go as well as it should have is a light bulb to us.
But none of this is enough for the Beeson family.
That person that's in there, they are somebody's child, they are somebody's brother, they're somebody's dad, and that because of their neglect to check him, we don't have him no longer.
In Globe, I'm investigator Melissa Blasius, ABC 15, Arizona.
Jailed for nearly a month without charges, deprived of water for days. Now an Arizona grandmother is suing Gila County for false imprisonment, assault, violations of her rights, and negligence. ABC 15 investigator Melissa Blasius speaking with that woman tonight.
Inhumane and un-American. That's how Tamara Barnicoat and her lawyer describes her treatment inside the Gila County Jail in Globe, Arizona. The trauma she experienced, overwhelming.
It hurts even now, huh? Yeah, I don't like talking about it. That's why I read. Helps me forget. God, this is so hard. Give me the strength.
Tamara was experiencing a mental health crisis last October when she was arrested on suspicion of a minor crime. At the Gila County Jail, her behavior was so bizarre that she was put in an isolation cell, and detention officers dry-celled her. That means they turned off her tap water, worried she'd splash or make a mess. It stayed off for at least 2 days without anyone even offering her a glass of water to drink.
She had to drink out of a nasty toilet bowl to hydrate herself.
To add insult to injury, the 63-year-old was held for 27 days total inside this jail, without her medication, without mental health treatment, and without any criminal charges being filed. We reached out to the Gila County Sheriff and the county attorney about the lawsuit. Their only response is that they've turned the case over to the Arizona County's insurance pool. In the past, the sheriff admitted to mistakes resulting in violations of Tamara's constitutional rights. Tamara's attorney, Robert Campos, says the lawsuit is not about a big payday. It's about trying to correct a big injustice.
Simply because someone is mentally ill is not a crime, and we should not put them in a jail and forget about them and throw away the key. That's just not what we do in America.
I want them to change things at the jail because it was so devastating.
Tamara says she is feeling better these days with the help of her therapist and the right medication. She, one of the most vulnerable people in our community, has somehow found the strength to stand up to the sheriff and fight for better conditions for everyone. I'm investigator Melissa Blasius, ABC 15 Arizona.